This is Movies on TV Podcast Industries, and we're back with our spoiler-filled discussion of Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about, and I have no idea how to save it. But you do.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero. This Wolverine let down his entire world.
Well, my entire world needs you. Shake on it. Ah, nicked it. Just got the tip with your little steak knife.
Schnick. Fellow defenders, welcome back to Movies on TV Podcast Industries, where we're chatting all about Deadpool and Wolverine, the new movie from the guys that bring you the MCU, Marvel Studios. I am one of your hosts, Chris.
Hello there, fellow defenders. I am one of your other hosts, John. I've just been listening to a mega box set of Enya. Guess what I've been doing?
And I'm your other host, Derek. Welcome back, everybody.
Woohoo!
Yes, welcome back to Movies on TV Podcast Industries.
Yep.
We are about to go through a spoiler-filled discussion of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Can't wait.
In this corner of the multiverse.
But, unfortunately, in this corner of the multiverse, I haven't seen the film yet.
Chris.
Such a part-timer.
I know. It is. It's terrible. Guys, literally don't have a kid. Like, don't have a kid. It's
Don't blame
it
Miles.
screws with your hobbies. It's like, I was like, oh yeah, well, I could bring him with me, but then I get looks. when you bring a 14-month-old into an R-rated film, honestly, it's not going to be good. And when that kid then runs around with this samurai sword in a Deadpool costume, you get more looks.
Yes.
So it was a lose-lose situation. But fear not, my fellow defenders. You are going to be spoiled rotten with our spoiler-filled discussion from my two co-hosts. Because they have seen it, they have thoughts, and they're going to be juicy. But fear not beyond that. Head on over to facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. And as soon as I have seen this film, I will have very serious thoughts.
Well, you might.
And opinions.
Well, mini knife.
Yeah.
Well, we very much hope you enjoy Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm sure we'll hear from you as well when you've seen it, and let us know what you think of it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yes.
Probably.
You be gone, sir. Leave us to do a two-hander.
Yes.
Dare I say it.
I hope everyone enjoyed this cameo, because I'm pretty sure you enjoyed other ones.
There might be one or two.
There may be one or two. Who knows? But that's us cameo from me. Thank you so much. And for now, goodbye.
Bye, Chris.
See you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris, for the cameo. And I guess with Chris gone back to his multiverse, we can continue
Of madness.
Of madness, exactly.
Of absolute chaos and madness.
Imagine not actually seeing Deadpool and Wolverine by now.
I know. He calls himself a defender.
He calls himself a Deadpool fan as well. Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said about that, because I'm not entirely convinced that he's seen all of the Spider-Man movies as well.
He hasn't
Shock horror.
He hasn't seen them in
the
cinema, but I think he's seen them at home now. I know he didn't get to go to the cinema until it was out of the cinema. He didn't get a chance to go last time. That's what it is. That's what it is. But let's get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Deadpool and Wolverine. If this is your first time hearing us on Movies on TV Podcast Industries, we've reviewed tons and tons of movies on the podcast, but loads and loads of TV shows as well. You can get everything we've reviewed over on tvpodcastindustries.com. I also reloaded up the first two episodes, or the first two movies of Deadpool. So you'll get those at the start of the TV Podcast Industries feed if you want to go back and listen to the two of those.
Yes, tons of stuff there. Yeah.
Almost 1,000 different reviews over the 10 years that we've been podcasting.
Excellent stuff. Also, if you are new to the podcast as well, in particular for the movies, but for any of the TV shows that we have covered there recently, which includes The Boys. It also includes sort of an overarching look at the Star Wars The Acolyte.
That's right.
And we are about to move into the final season of The Umbrella Academy as well in August. Then please head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. And of course, for your feedback, just send in your emails to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And also you can join our Facebook group over on facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where we have discussion threads and comments for all the shows and movies that we cover.
Exactly.
With that, I think let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of the Marvel movie Deadpool and Wolverine. Derek, what are some of the movie details? Who gave us what, where, when, how, and why? And I guess that includes Kevin Feige.
It does include Kevin Feige. And interestingly, a lot of people don't know that Feige was actually involved in the movies way before the MCU was set up, way before the first Marvel Studios film, Iron Man, was set up. He was involved in all of these movies. He was a consultant all the way back. So he is involved in the Fox universe of movies as well, even though it's not something that was connected to him. He wasn't responsible for them like he is now, but he's always been involved in these. So yeah, a Kevin Feige production, bringing the Fox universe of characters into the MCU, really. But on top of that, the director for this movie is Shawn Levy. He directed Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy and The Adam Project, which were both recently released in the last couple of years. And he also directed Hugh Jackman in Real Steel, John.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So he's directed both of them in previous projects, but it seems like he is Ryan Reynolds' partner in crime in terms of directing. This is the third director on the Deadpool movies. He hasn't directed one of them before. So after working with him on Free Guy and The Adam Project, he came over with him to this Marvel movie.
Excellent stuff. Yeah.
The 35th, I think, MCU movie, actually.
Yeah, well, certainly very connected in this time around for Deadpool.
The first Deadpool movie in the Marvel universe after the Fox movies, I guess, after they purchased Fox. So, yeah. And this movie was written by Rhett Reese, who wrote Deadpool 1 and 2, along with Paul Wernick, who wrote Deadpool 1 and 2. Ryan Reynolds, of course, involved in Deadpool 1 and 2 and the writer of both of those. Director Shawn Levy also has a writing credit for the movie as well. And Zeb Wells is on board as a writer here as well. He wrote the other fourth wall-breaking character, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. He wrote episode 7, which you'll remember is the one where they go to Emil Blonsky's retreat. A really fun episode of She-Hulk as well. And also he wrote on Robot Chicken for many years.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah. But I haven't seen Robot Chicken in ages.
I know. I think the last one was probably one of their Star Wars parody ones.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a bit sporadic now. It's not like a regular series like it used to be. But okay, excellent stuff.
There you go. So Zeb Wells joining the writing team for this one. But that makes sense. You'd have somebody that works in the Marvel universe because all these previous movies had been just in the Fox universe, not connecting into storylines and things that were going on in the MCU. So bring on somebody that's written for some of the TV shows or some of the MCU movies. It makes total sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Deadpool and Wolverine?
Little knife. As Scoutmaster Kevin once said across from the campfire, Wade Wilson, the Merc with a mouth, finds his world turned upside down when the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, reveals that his timeline is collapsing due to the death of Logan, a.k.a. Wolverine, who is essential to its stability. Tasked with finding a replacement Wolverine, Wade embarks on a multiverse adventure filled with chaos and unexpected alliances. After encountering various Logan variants and facing off against a powerful Cassandra Nova, Wade and a reluctant Logan team up with a resistance group led by Elektra Natchios to confront Nova and her army of Deadpool variants. A high-stakes battle ensues, with Wade and Logan making the ultimate sacrifice to destroy the Time Ripper and save the multiverse. In a surprising twist, Logan chooses to retire rather than disrupt the timeline, while Wade reunites with his ex-girlfriend Vanessa. The film concludes with a humorous post-credits scene featuring Johnny Storm, adding a final comedic touch to the action-packed adventure. Yeah, Scoutmaster Kevin, you remember him?
I wasn't sure what you were referencing there, John.
From the movie. The innuendo.
Oh, well, of course. Yes
of a dodgy Scoutmaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots.
In this instance called Kevin, but purely hypothetical.
Of course. There's lots and lots of innuendo in this movie, of course. And lots of straight-out innuendo, I guess, as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think from sort of rubbing the bone, so to speak, in that lovely opening sequence, which I think is our point one.
It is.
Which I think we'll get into our top 5 points for this Deadpool movie. Point 1, digging up the rotting corpse of Wolvie.
Yes.
Yes, this is the bye dance.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. There's a lot of people who are a little bit concerned that after Wolverine had finished off on a movie that effectively, if it didn't win an Oscar, I don't think it did, but it was the one comic book movie that was going to be nominated for Oscars. Of all of the X-Men series, of all of the Fox characters, I know that in the MCU we've had Black Panther, which is nominated for an Oscar, but this was the one. The Logan was the movie that set up the character really well, was really emotional tale of Wolverine and X-23. And a lot of people were really concerned that him coming back for this would ruin that story. So they start off right here with Deadpool going to dig up the corpse of Wolverine. And in commentary over the top of it, Wade Wilson kind of going, look, he's got regeneration powers. I know this is how it works. He's not going to be rotting in the grave. He's going to be alive. And then we see the rotted corpse of Wolverine. We see the adamantium skeleton, basically, and Wade Wilson puppeting it away, basically going,
it's
I guess he is dead, isn't he?
Yeah, it is so funny.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting because when the TVA do turn up and he says, how many bones is there in a human body? And I was like, why? What's that got to do? And then I was like, oh no, because it's got the adamantium bone structure effectively of Wolverine. So it's like that each of the bones is a weapon, which he then uses to really great effect. And indeed, as I say, he does sort of old handle the bone in a rather suggestive moment. So I just really... It's more than rather suggestive. It is actually exactly. He's stroking the bone, literally.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Like it's a really funny sequence and using NSYNC as the background while he's doing the bye dance as he's killing lots of TVA agents using the adamantium bones of Wolverine. It was a really good opening, but I do like that there was a bit of respect paid to Logan. I knew this was going to be a comedy movie. Obviously, it wasn't going to be that down and dirty, serious movie like Logan was. So how do you do that? You open up with your main character going, we're not going to pee all over your memories of Logan. We're going to pay a little bit of respect to it, but have the rotting corpse of Wolverine puppeted by Wade was very funny, and this opening sequence. But this is all leading up to the story of what's happened to Wade Wilson since Deadpool 2. We find out in some flashbacks after this scene that he wanted to join the Avengers directly after Deadpool 2. So that was back in 2018 when Deadpool 2 came out. Around the time of the blip, I guess, was around that kind of 2018, or at least before the blip. So it was before the Avengers became the big world-saving, universe-saving team when they took on Thanos. So it's around that time.
Yeah.
It's around the time of his first
movie. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, for me, I don't think this changes Logan whatsoever. I absolutely love Logan. For me, it is probably my favorite X-Men movie that ever came out. I love just the intimacy of it and kind of watching it there recently. Yeah. You know, the fact that they are in a wood, a pine forest where he does die and sacrifices himself for those mutant kids. And it's like, there's a respect in that really picking up halfway, because I mean, if for no other reason than you would probably want to dig his skeleton up in order to scavenge the adamantium bones.
Yes.
I just like the fact that his teeth were still in. So it was kind of like this skeleton, but with a proper full set of gnashes, but not like skeleton gnashes. It looked like they'd still had a good old polish and, went to the dentist every 6 months. They kind of looked a bit too perfect, but I kind of, that was just the thing. I mean, it was even the fact that it felt the design of the skeleton looked like there was a little bit of wispy hair still on the top, but more than just wispy, it felt like it was that kind of slightly spiky, short cropped hair.
Still fulfilling kind of the Wolverine shape of, of the hair.
Exactly. So it was really good. Yeah. And I actually love the fact that this movie touched on one of my favorite X-Men movies, which is Logan. And even to the point of having X-23 back as well, which I know we'll come to later.
Absolutely.
But, really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But Wade himself is on the rocks as well. He's kind of lost everything. Yeah. Vanessa's left him because after the big adventure that happened in Deadpool 2, she's not seeing it. He has no drive anymore for doing anything else. So he's trying to get into the Avengers to give himself that drive back and maybe keep Vanessa around. He doesn't. He becomes a car salesman with Peter, who he'd saved at the end of Deadpool 2.
Well, I'd say it's not worked out the way he thought. I mean, even that, he's got his birthday coming up. It's running through the motions here. Even Vanessa's there, but she's seeing someone else, it's all a bit bittersweet, really. It's all fairly, at least for Wade Wilson, it's mundane. There's no excitement. The Avengers thing hasn't happened.
Yep.
It's the usual grouping of people. So for him, it's like time has gone by and nothing's really happened.
Exactly. And there is a good gag there with Jon Favreau reprising his role as Happy Hogan, meeting with Deadpool because, well, Tony Stark's not going to come down and meet people like you for interview, which is basically Robert Downey Jr. won't do a cameo in your movie. This is what's being said there. Although he might now, as we just heard at Comic-Con, he's back in the MCU for multiple millions of dollars. I think 80 million is the estimated cost to get him back into the MCU.
I'd love to see his Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is one of my favorite characters, so it would be really interesting to see what he does.
It will be, yes. Yeah. But you did think you might see Robert Downey Jr. popping in for a little gag here. There's loads of photographs around Happy Hogan's room of Tony Stark, of Pepper Potts as well. So establishing that this is the discussion to be part of the MCU. But it's a good gag. It's a good gag anyway. You mentioned them already, John, but let's go on to point number 2, how the story progresses, really. Our point number 2. The TVA hires Deadpool. So the Time Variance Authority are back from Loki, season 1 and 2.
I'm really pleased about this because, I really enjoyed Loki, both seasons, and I think, how do you get the TVA in here? And I think having Wade Wilson taking the piss out of this bureaucratic monster of an organization in the TVA is almost like a shot of adrenaline in the arm for the TVA. And I really enjoyed the kind of that juxtaposition of, the pen pushers being sort of forced to deal with, the Merc with the mouth. And I have to say here, with, the introduction of Mr. Paradox as well with Matthew McFadden.
And yes, from Succession, of course.
From Succession, but just so good. I loved the fact that, the man in the suit, I mean, there were a few moments where I just thought, he was going to get sort of blown away by the gun of Wade Wilson, or even, sort of a bit later on that both him and Wolverine were going to take out Mr. Paradox. Now, I don't know anything about the character, really, but I like the fact that he was always there.
Yes.
And actually was standing up to them in a way, was kind of going about his own plan with the Time Ripper.
Yes.
And I've kind of enjoyed Matthew McFadden because, he's been on British TV a bit. I think he's Australian, actually, but he seems to do, British accent, British sort of, cop, upper class, whatever it might be, really, really well. I think he was in some kind of period piece.
Okay.
But I just really like his sensibility.
Yes.
Certainly as a man in a suit.
Yeah.
And you could sense him channeling, the Succession element in what he did. But it was just more hyped up. It was over-egged, but in a really good way. And I thought it really played into a Deadpool movie really well.
Yeah, really enjoyed seeing Matthew McFadden here. He's so good on Succession. He's one of those standout characters that you just wonder what the heck he's going to say every time he opens his mouth. He's always an interesting character to watch. So really glad to see him here. And he's the one that's kind of pushing forward the plot and bringing them on board. So effectively, they come to take out Wade Wilson, to take him into the TVA, take him out of his timeline, because the timeline is about to be wiped due to the loss of Logan from the timeline. Because Wolverine sacrificed himself and died, their timeline is going to be wiped out because he was the central character to that universe.
That's it. They almost bring in a new concept. So it's not a keystone species, but it's almost like Wolverine in that timeline is the keystone personality, superhero of that timeline. With him dead, there's no point keeping it going. So they're going to prune it, they're going to wipe it. But Mr. Paradox kind of just wants to do it in a more efficient way with this Time Ripper, but can do it across multiple timelines that need to be done rather than this slow process. Again, it's the bureaucratic thing of, we must increase efficiency.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all of that kind of thing, really.
Paradox is looking for a promotion, basically. So he's going to wipe the timeline in 72 hours instead of a year. That's kind of the way he says it. But the meta commentary here, the joke here, of course, is that the Fox universe has been bought by Disney, and they've bought the rights back effectively. And you'll probably have noticed, we've covered a couple of shows that were on FX in the last year, like Shogun, for example. When something stands on its own and is able to make them money, they'll continue to produce it through that channel. What they're saying here is Logan is the epitome of X-Men movies, of that X franchise of movies. Yeah. You'll never be able to do anything better with it. So we're just going to absorb that whole universe into the MCU now, right? That's the kind of meta idea that they've come up with here for the story.
And we're pruning the Fox timeline, but taking the characters. And this is what they're doing by taking Wade Wilson.
Exactly. But in the story, in the movie itself, just want to quickly call out the actual taking from the TVA, taking Wade Wilson from his party where he's surrounded by all of his friends. He takes that little Polaroid picture with all of his friends there. He gets taken out of that universe. Just wanted to jump into it just for fans of Welcome to Wrexham, and his partner in crime there, Rob McElhenney, who works on that reality show. The two of them bought a football team in the UK, together, but they, even on that show, they referenced that Rob McElhenney will be in the movie here. Now he is credited as TVA agent. We think it's the guy in the background when they all are talking to Wade, and he's telling them all that basically he's going to have sex with them all, that he thinks they're there dressed up as a party favour. Yeah,
and he mentions one specifically who has goggles on.
Exactly, and says...
And the goggles hide the face, and so we're assuming that is Rob McElhenney.
Yeah, especially because his joke to him is, while we're having sex, we're going to be making eye contact the whole time. And so I think he's trying to make Rob McElhenney break up laughing in that scene.
Yeah, definitely. But because of this recruitment, it's not really what Wade Wilson is thinking of, because by pruning that timeline, it means all the people that he does care about, including Vanessa, are going to perish as well.
Exactly.
And they aren't being saved by the TVA. Yeah. So he has to go, he kind of rebels against the offer here, and needs to travel then into the multiverse in order to find another Wolverine that can inhabit the timeline and maintain that timeline.
Exactly. Someone to replace Logan. So we get tons and tons of Wolverine variants across the timeline. There's some great ones in here as well. I think my favorite definitely is the comic accurate Wolverine, who's Hugh Jackman, only 5'2", which is very good.
I do like the touch with all the Wolvies there, that one of them is the Henry Cavill Wolverine as well. That's a nice little nod to Henry Cavill just being an awesome sort of generally good dude, and the fact that he's been, I guess, banjaxed by DC in the same way that Ryan Reynolds had kind of made fun of the Green Lantern in the previous movie. Yeah. So I like that Cavill is up for this, really.
And doesn't Ryan Reynolds say, "Oh, come with us, they'll treat you so much nicer over there than they did over in your last place"? Yeah, so nice little poking fun at that as well.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that.
But all of them effectively attack Deadpool the minute they see them, until he finally finds one that's drunk enough to fall asleep before he attacks Deadpool, and then brings him back with him to the TVA.
Yeah.
And he learns when he brings that Wolverine back that this is the worst Wolverine of all timelines. This is someone that let all of his friends die, or wasn't there to save all of his friends. So he has to drag him around with him. And because of that, Mr. Paradox goes, well, you effectively didn't accomplish the goal that we'd set for you. You didn't do what we wanted you to do. So prunes them both from the universe, and they're sent off to the void.
And then I enjoyed going to the void as well.
Yeah, it was really fun going to the void, wasn't it?
I think we should move on to our point number 3. Point number 3, the Fox universe in the void. Mm-hmm. I think just because we'd probably seen Furiosa recently, I absolutely loved the skit on Mad Max.
Absolutely.
In the void, with its dystopian feel, at least within the Deadpool movies. Yeah. Looking very much like it's in a desert.
It's so crazy, isn't it? That, like, you know, when this movie was being made, of course, Furiosa was being made, the sequel to Mad Max Fury Road, or the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. They must have thought, well, there's no way that's going to be the big summer movie. That's, you know, follow up from Fury Road, which was a massive underground success. It made way more money than anybody expected. So they must have thought Furiosa's going to blow the box office wide open. Everybody's going to know this reference by the time we get there, when they were making the movie. And then that was in the cinema for about 2.5 weeks and just didn't do very well. And it's a really good movie.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed Fury Road, go see Furiosa. But they are definitely referencing, because they probably thought this was going to be the other big movie of the summer. So I wonder how that's landed with anybody that didn't see that movie.
I mean, I think just generally them referencing Mad Max as well. You know, it's more general, and everyone knows Mad Max. So like, I love that. I just immediately, the sense of humor from that was superb. Mm-hmm. I love then the fact that there's always the danger of Alioth being in here, and we do see later on. I love
there. So
that's the big black smoke monster with the red eyes, kind of purpley smoke dark purple, I guess, smoke monster.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Who we saw in Loki, and again, you know, they kind of call this stuff out because you're never sure who in your audience is going to have seen all of the things you're referencing. So they do call out quite specifically to camera. This is Loki episode 5 from season 1. Do you remember? So Ryan Reynolds doesn't even trust the audience to catch that one. Yeah. He's going to specifically tell you where to go and look for it as well. Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many good things that go on in the void. I mean, this film is absolutely balls deep in cameos.
So much.
But I love the twist around the cameo of everyone, at least in our screening, going, oh my goodness, it's Cap America here, you know?
Chris Evans is back. He's been saying for years he's never going to play Captain America again. And here he is, right there.
Here he is, and then it's like, it's the Human Torch. Yeah. It's like flame on. I'm like, that is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Love
classic.
The little twist here.
Yeah.
The fact that he doesn't survive. Effectively, the main bad guy here, Cassandra Nova, who's Xavier's twin, who Deadpool is kind of saying, you know, oh well. The Human Torch here has been sort of bad-mouthing you all the way through as, you know, after we'd been captured and been brought here, and it's going through all the insults that the Human Torch has said about Cassandra Nova, and then she just kind of thinks something, and you see all his skin drop off. I love the big eyes.
That's a great effect.
It's still a lot, like, kind of just move, and his mouth, and then he crumples to the ground.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this plays into the post-credit scene as well, because
me too.
You have Human Torch really saying, no, I didn't say any of this. This is all just Deadpool, the Merc with the mouth, just mouthing off in order to buy some time, distract, sort of come up with a plan, whilst he's, you know, got them otherwise engaged with the fact that he's just, you know, it's verbal diarrhea here. And you kind of believe that. And I love the fact that it goes back to when they're in kind of the globe, like sort of Mad Max prison, being transported to Cassandra's main base. And you hear the Human Torch bad-mouthing Cassandra in exactly the way that Deadpool recounts. So I love that.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And again, it shows you the other side of Chris Evans. We're so used to seeing Chris Evans as Captain America for so long. But, you know, in movies like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, he has a very different character. In Fantastic Four, his appearance as Human Torch, he is a very different character than Captain America. So giving him the opportunity to have this, it's almost a one-take speech that he has to get through, and you can see there's a cheekiness in Chris Evans when he's delivering that, where he's going, nobody's going to believe this is coming out of my mouth. You know, it's a great little moment as the post-credit scene. But there are so many other cameos and characters. Let's talk about the main resistance group that are here, because these are all surprises to me. There have been so many rumors about how many actors and how many people were going to be appearing in the movie. But it does contain itself to being a movie about the Fox universe and saying goodbye to that universe of characters, absolutely. Really, doesn't it?
And in that sense, it's a really nice kind of almost love letter to those movies.
Yes.
So, I mean, we have Elektra Natchios.
From
literally the worst movie. Yeah. It's a shame they didn't have Daredevil or The Punisher or Ghost Rider. Like, I think that would have been awesome. I know they are only ever going to be able to get so many, and it all depends on schedules and just the willingness.
Oh, you're totally right. It would have been great to have all of them in there, but they do get a great joke in about Daredevil not being there. That he was part of the Resistance, but was killed by Cassandra Nova in the past, and Elektra kind of going, well, no real loss there, because of course, Jennifer Garner famously was married to Ben Affleck at one point, so having the two of them on screen together is probably not going to happen.
Well, that's
but
true.
A great little gag there as well. But you're right. You know, I'd love to have seen Ghost Rider in there. Ghost Rider's well back in Marvel now. He appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a character before as well. And we already have lots of other Punishers out there. But again, Punisher also gets a mention in there too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They all get a mention. Yeah. You know, you've got Blade there as well with Wesley Snipes, which are really great to see.
Yeah, saying his famous line.
Yeah.
Nobody ever ice skates uphill. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Always trying to ice skate uphill. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
For me as well, I just felt it was so good that X-23 was back with Daphne Keane.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you know, again, she played X-23 so well in Logan, so Absolutely. Young as well. And I loved her being in the middle of Logan and Xavier, with, you know, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, you know. Yes. And to me as well, it's kind of that heart of this movie. Yes, it's there with Deadpool in spades, but there's another section here, and it's, like you're saying about sort of the integrity of Logan being carried through in this movie. And I love the fact that real serious kind of introspection of Wolverine, at the campfire, wondering what the hell he's doing, given that he's technically the worst Wolverine in the world. And those real meaningful moments for Wolverine are between him and X-23.
Exactly.
I thought it was so good, and I loved their relationship in Logan, and I just felt the sense of that carrying over in this movie as well. And I thought it was a real standout for the scenes that they were in together for me in this movie. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Definitely. And that's the importance of bringing back Daphne Keane. She's there as X-23 to save Wolverine, who saved her in their adventure together before she got pruned, I guess, and put into the void. But it's really important. I think it works really, really well. Yeah. I'd almost say she's the real character of everybody else that's there. I think there's lovely touches with the Fox characters being brought in there. The idea that the reason why Elektra and Blade are fighting as the Resistance against Cassandra Nova is to give them a real ending, which they never really got within the Fox universe. Interesting little side note, that Ryan Reynolds, of course, appeared in Blade 3, taking on a lot of the acting duties when apparently Wesley Snipes wasn't coming out of his trailer many days. So there is a little gag in the background there where Blade tells Deadpool he always hated him. And Ryan kind of says, yeah, me too. So there is a little joke between the two of them having lots of tension on the set of Blade 3 in the earlier days.
Absolutely.
There is one other big member of the Resistance that I absolutely loved, which is finally on screen. We have Gambit being played by Channing Tatum. a version of Gambit never realized, but it was definitely in the papers or in the trade press for about 6 years that he was attached to the Gambit movie. And what they do with him in here is hilarious. He even says at one point, I think I was born here. Because his movie was never released. Nobody knows who he is. But the whole joke of it is that he was there. Everybody thought he was eventually going to make this movie. And they even give him that terrible accent from his version of a Cajun accent. And it is hilarious. What's the joke from Deadpool where he says,
who's your accent coach? You know,
was the Minions?
Yeah, you sound like a minion.
Yeah, because there's moments where you just can't understand a word that he's saying. Channing Tatum's such a great comedic actor. Go watch 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street. He's hilarious in both of those movies, but he really brings it here, knowing that this could have been a real movie back in the late 90s, early 2000s. This could have been a real movie with him playing Gambit. And here he is wearing the full costume, doing the awesome exploding card powers, which are terrible powers, but they do use it to great effect, I think, in the big battle sequence. We see Elektra, we see Blade, we see X-23, we see Gambit all fighting side by side with Wolvie and
it's great.
Deadpool.
It's a great little scene that where they're all fighting in order to sort of buy time so they can try and defeat Cassandra.
Yeah.
Here.
But I think they even show how cool the exploding cards of Gambit can be. He attaches ones to the back of 4 people that are around him and then it explodes them all at the same time. It's cool. Looks like something from the intro of X-Men 97. Very cool stuff. Very cool. But that's the Resistance fighters that are there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of villains as well. Like loads. I mean, in effect, they're all quite, other than Cassandra, most of them are real cameos. They're kind of just there for a few scenes. There's Pyro and Toad. Sabretooth is the one I recognize coming back from one of the earlier Wolverine movies.
Played by Tyler Mane. One of the first ones from one of the first X-Men movies. Toad was in the first X-Men movie. And Pyro was in the first or second. Yeah.
I like that Juggernaut looks like he's slimmed down compared to all the other movies, even the last Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
It's like he's gone on a keto diet or something, but retained his helmet, which is very important for their plan to escape the void. That Cassandra is keeping them here, because when they put that on her, that it will dampen her powers, so that they can escape the void.
And it's like Magneto's helmet, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But he's already dead, apparently, according to the what they say. Can we talk quickly about Cassandra Nova, though? Played by Emma Corrin, who we remember when they were on Pennyworth first season, and then went on to work on The Crown after that. A very well-respected actor, has won lots and lots of awards, and here they are playing Cassandra Nova, Xavier's twin. So we haven't heard about Cassandra Nova in any of the movie universes before, but yes, this is a comic book character. Cassandra Nova is his twin that effectively Xavier killed in the womb before she was born. Yeah. And then she transferred her consciousness out of the womb. She's that powerful, but has very much the same power set as Xavier. If you're not going to bring Patrick Stewart back, well, you bring his female twin back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think she was really good in this.
She was superb.
And there's one specific thing I absolutely love about her that they did for this, which is her messing with people's minds by putting her finger through their faces, or her fingers through their faces, or behind their faces almost.
Absolutely.
It's such a cool effect.
It was superb.
And isn't there there's even the joke from Pyro there going, will you just ask me? I don't want your fingers inside my head.
Yeah.
It
was
great joke.
It looked phenomenal. It looked like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to scratch my brain. I felt like I could feel what was happening. This idea that she was sort of fertling around inside someone's head. It was just the way, with the hand in the eye, and moving around, how the eyes bumped up, or the nose, or whatever. I thought it was done to really, really good effect. And I absolutely loved it when she applied it to Mr. Paradox. I think, Matthew McFadden's head massage. The acting here, given it was CGI, I don't know, it like the eyes, his face reacted wherever Cassandra's hands went, and it looked phenomenal, even though that was purely imaginary.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, in terms of this is going to be how it will look and CGI'd, and then Bosch. I think Matthew McFadden also just has the face for it.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah.
I just thought it was really phenomenally good. I loved it. I loved that whole sequence. And just then where she's dragging him, and he's kind of gone like a rag doll as he's dragged down to the Time Ripper machine.
Yeah. It's a really, really cool effect. I guess this is what happens when you go from doing 3 Marvel movies a year and 3 series to 1 Marvel movie, Echo, that came out as a series this year, Agatha All Along that's coming out later this year, and the Marvels last year. You have your CGI studios, the studios that do all the special effects, who are able to actually work and accomplish all the jobs that were here by not being overworked with 8 different projects in one year.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's why the special effects, to me anyway, they definitely stood up to the movie.
Absolutely. There was also a little notion of a variant Doctor Strange being trapped in the void as well, with the sling ring.
Yes.
That they actually, Wolverine and Deadpool use in order to escape the void and from the oncoming Alioth, who is approaching Cassandra's kind of base there.
Yes. Yeah, she does give them their way out, doesn't she? She, because of the relationship her brother had with Wolverine, she gives them an opportunity to escape, and sends them back to their own universe. Her plan, though, is that she's going to steal the Universe Ripper from the TVA and wipe out everything but the Void, where she is effectively the leader of the Void. She's the one that set herself up as Queen of the Void, let's say. And again, I like the kind of meta idea. Why do we have to keep the MCU? Why can't we keep the Fox universe? You know, why does their universe get to destroy ours? Why can't we take all theirs out? You know, I think again we hear Wade Wilson commenting on the less than successful last couple of movies from the MCU. Can we just call an end to it, and just move on with other movies? So I think that's also Cassandra's plan. If she gets her way, we'll never see the end of Phase 5. We'll have to just move on with other movies, hopefully featuring those characters would be her plan, effectively. But she lets them go back to their own universe using the sling ring. But you're right, there must be a varied Doctor Strange that must have appeared there at some point. Yeah,
she does say.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Let us get on to our 4th point. I think let us get on to point 4.
Yes.
All of the Deadpools back in the world of the TVA. Mm-hmm. So we have now this race to get to the Time Ripper to either destroy it or to use it in order to wipe everything but the Void.
Yes.
So they're in this race against Cassandra, but all the Deadpools are thrown at them.
Yes, they're working for Cassandra, the Deadpool core, effectively. We did meet 2 of them already that we didn't mention. Let's mention them here because they're 2 of my favourites, without a doubt. Nice Pool, who's effectively Ryan Reynolds at his most Canadian. You can hear him just being really super polite all the time. Even gives Deadpool his car when they meet each other in the Void. And basically, Deadpool wants to steal his dog, which is the other coolest Deadpool. Dogpool, John. What did you think of Dogpool?
I was there kind of going, oh my goodness, the meth really hit Scooby-Doo hard on this. And then I was actually questioning the reality of it all. I was like, is that CGI or is that a real dog?
It is.
And then I was kind of flip-flopping between the 2 of them. Oh no, it's a real dog. Oh my goodness. It looks like that. The tongue is like that. Or then I was like going, or are they CGIing just the tongue? So it's just like sort of exaggerated, and then the whole tonguing between the dog and Deadpool. I was like, oh my god.
As he's talking, and then the dog is licking his tongue while he's talking, and then Ryan Reynolds licks the dog's tongue back. It's just, is this real? Is this actually happening?
I know.
Here?
I was just like, but I mean, fair dues, obviously, Ryan Reynolds does like a good old French kiss from a pooch. So I guess he kind of liked it. Either that or he got oral thrush, I guess.
Maybe.
Or something really sort of scummy. But it was just, what is going on here? Each time it was it was just the tonguing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my goodness. In fact, when he had the Deadpool mask on, I was going, oh, thank God for that. Because at least it's just licking the top of it. But fair dues, that is dedication to the craft.
It certainly is. And I was right, John, that we came out of the cinema after watching the movie, and I was asking, I wonder where they found the dog. The dog had won, I think it's the UK contest for Britain's Ugliest Dogs. So I think that it was the winner the previous year, or the winner when they were casting, and it got through the year. So it
just looked unreal, but fair dues to the pooch.
It's gone to all of the red carpets.
It's probably earned more money in that movie than I'll ever earn in my entire lifetime, so fair enough.
And rightly so. It's a very, very cute and very, very weird dog. The kind of thing they always say about Deadpool is that he pushes the joke so far that eventually it comes back from not being funny. Well, that's effectively what Dogpool's like. He's gone past the point of being an ugly pooch to actually being cute again by the end of the movie. But yes, let's talk about all the rest of the Deadpools. I'm not going to go through them all. There are apparently 100 different variants of Deadpools that are coming to take down Wade and Logan when they've arrived back. We have the standoff between them. We have Wolverine and Deadpool on one side. Nicepool is coming towards Deadpool, and then the rest of this gang of 100 other variants are coming towards them. And Deadpool grabs Nicepool and uses him as a human shield between all the Deadpools going on. It is hilarious how badly killed Nicepool gets by all of the rest of the Deadpools.
Well, in the end as well, his head is blown off.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that was really funny. It kind of looked like, almost Tarzan-esque in terms of with the locks as well.
With his amazing hair.
Yeah. I expected him to be swinging through the trees of a jungle, to be honest.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it was really good. I loved him using Nicepool as a shield. I loved the whole sequence of both him and Wolvie, sort of the slow motion montage of all the Deadpool killing. Mm-hmm. Only for them to come to the end of it, triumphant, and then they all get back up again because they've regenerated. Yet seemingly Nicepool isn't able to regenerate. Mm-hmm. The only one there that can't regenerate. So I like that.
Did you see the regeneration? They went back to the Deadpool 2 joke where some of them had really small arms, baby arms, like in the last one. I thought that was a great touch.
It was a really good touch.
Yeah.
And in amongst all of those Deadpools, at least the one for me I thought was really good was the Welsh Pool, or Welsh Deadpool, played by Paul Mullins from Wrexham.
Yes.
And obviously Ryan Reynolds, along with Rob McElhenney, owning that club.
Yeah.
And of course with the associated documentary on that. So that was really good to see Super Paul Mullins, well, not see him, but know that Super Paul Mullins was the Welsh Deadpool.
Yes, was in the costume. And Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, plays Lady Deadpool.
Very good.
Very cool. And there's a couple of ones that I didn't notice at the time, but Headpool, the one that's floating around all the way through, that's Nathan Fillion.
Excellent. Yes, because he is used as a weapon by Deadpool at one point.
He is.
Which I really like. Yeah. And then, the cowboy Deadpool is Matthew McConaughey.
Of course.
Of course it is.
That's what you do when you're an actor like Ryan Reynolds. You call up all your friends and go, just record a line here for me. We're going to put you in the Deadpool movie. You get a credit. A couple of quid sent your way as well. Yeah, exactly. Remember, Brad Pitt was in the last one.
Yeah.
For a millisecond. So yeah, love it. But this massive battle I thought it was really well done. I loved having all of this. It's something that you're kind of waiting for the whole time when the resistance group that are in the void are telling them you don't want to run into the Deadpool core, and you go, I want to see the Deadpool core. I want to see them arrive. And they really paid so much attention to each other. There's loads of other versions. We're never going to be able to get around to call them all out, but there's loads of other versions of Deadpool that you see in the comics, that you see in other versions, and I've seen in the past. So quite cool to have them all on screen here. And the entire resolution to this is that Peter Pool arrives.
Yeah, absolutely. He has squeezed into that outfit. Wow. Packing his packed lunch quite substantially.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Peter is the one friend of Deadpool across all multiverses, across all variants, that every one of them respect and like because he's so absolutely normal. It's simply it. Him being a car salesman at the beginning of the movie with Wade Wilson just makes sense. That's the kind of character he would be, a car salesman.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd be doing any type of normal job, but they all love him and all respect him, so they stop fighting amongst each other and stop trying to kill Wade and Logan, right?
Yeah, exactly. But shall we move on from Peter Pool and his crotch-hugging outfit, as well as all the other Deadpools, on to our fifth and final point. Our fifth and final point, which is also the wrap-up.
Well, yes, our final point about the movie, how it all finishes off and wraps up. So we already mentioned Cassandra Nova is back in their universe, trying to get her hands on Mr. Paradox's Time Ripper, and we have that excellent scene with her pulling Mr. Paradox along the ground behind her as she goes in to get the machine.
Yes, the kind of finger face massage, but really deep.
Exactly. And Wolverine and Deadpool have to team up to stop the machine from working. The two of them have to work together.
So the machine's kind of pulling from two sources of power. I love how, as she's kind of activating it, I like how you're getting that kind of string, sort of spaghettification of the world, like you saw in season 2 of Loki.
Yep.
Really good kind of aesthetic for me. In fact, I don't even think with the budget of a movie that they do it as well as they did in the TV show, to be honest.
I think so. I think that's
but there's a nice little, just a little pointer to that. And you have Deadpool and Logan having to go down into the bowels of where these streams of energy are, but being warned by Mr. Paradox that any one person doing that, they're going to die.
Yes.
But of course, both of them hold hands.
Yes.
Bro force it out with
have their own,
as they
sort of little team up properly,
as they allow the energy streams to kind of pass through them and so disrupt the flow to the Time Ripper, causing it to effectively fail in the plan that Cassandra has. Like, I really like this kind of moment, actually, of the fact that they did survive it, and it being a surprise that it was this kind of bromance moment of them holding hands in order to sort of sabotage Cassandra's plan. And I like the fact that Mr. Paradox, as I say, I think Matthew McFadden here is really, hamming up in a really good way for me, intensifying the part he played in Succession to some extent, because here we do have him groveling to both B-15, who is but also to Wolverine and to Deadpool when he realizes that they come back alive and aren't dead.
Yes, this is Hunter B-15, as we've seen her in the TVA in Loki season 1 and 2, played by Wunmi Mosaku, of course. Great to see her in here, and it's interesting when you have the TVA in here in the movie universe, the amount of speculation of who from the cast was going to appear in Deadpool and Wolverine. It's great that they at least got one member of the cast, and Wunmi Mosaku is fantastic. I really like her. So she's here as the head of the TVA, effectively, who shuts down the program and says to Deadpool and Wolverine that because they have saved the universe, effectively, that they can live. They can go back to their world, and his friends are going to be there as well. So she kind of pushes the button and saves their life and saves Deadpool and his friends. Yeah,
and that's kind of consistent with the end of season 2 as well, around, the TVA questioning its role of just pruning things out of existence and not actually sort of trying to help timelines to survive and carry on.
Yes.
And here it feels, it feels consistent with that, with what Hunter B-15 is doing here.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. But also, Deadpool asks for all the other friends that helped out, the Resistance members that were in the Void, asks for them to be returned. But B-15 kind of says, well, they can't be. They're not going to be able to be returned. So Elektra, Blade, and Gambit won't appear back in the universe, but one character will, which we see at the end. X-23 is back.
Yeah.
With Logan, with Deadpool, and with all that group of friends that we saw, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Kimiko, and Colossus. Who else was in there? The tax driver, who is Depinder, the tax driver. And of course, we have the reuniting of Deadpool and Vanessa, and it looks like they may mend their relationship now.
Yeah, a little bit of hand-holding again here as well. So yeah, it was a kind of a nice sort of wrap up here, I think. It's not earth-shattering. It's not going to set the MCU on any kind of massive change in trajectory.
I don't think it's going to do anything to the MCU, but I will talk about that in a minute, I suppose. But the one thing we will say is Logan's back here. He's now got a group of friends. He was the worst Wolverine in his universe. All of his friends are dead, but he's now got a group of friends who's going to hang around with Deadpool. He says he's going to retire. There is a constant running joke that they won't let him ever retire from this role of Wolverine, that he'll be playing it till he's 92. And seeing the box office that came out this week, 450 million by Sunday worldwide?
Exactly, yeah.
They're not letting him go. There will be another Wolverine in the future, I would say. He will come back at some point. Yeah. I'd say if there's going to be anything, he's going to appear in Secret Wars himself, and Deadpool are going to appear in Secret Wars along with all of those other characters. I'd say. I
would say so.
Yeah, but a nice little happy ending.
Poor Hugh Jackman.
Poor Hugh Jackman. He's never getting off that regimen that he's been doing for so many years.
Absolutely. Oh my God, like his body was phenomenal. I mean, there were a number of shots. The one where I think he is starting to, he's trying to, I don't know whether it's in this final moment where he's trying to connect the two energy streams in order to disrupt it, but where like his abs are out. I'm not saying there's not a bit of CGI manipulation there, but it is Deadpool looking him up and down on the abs, and I was like, dead right. You know,
55 years old, and apparently he was. That is him. That's his body. We've seen it in all the other movies. There's no CGI on top of that. That is Hugh Jackman at his stretched. Purely working out for that scene and kind of his stretched best. He didn't have to do it for the whole movie.
I kind of feel ashamed as a 46-year-old looking in worse shape than I guess 55-year-old. I mean, as I say, you know, it is the Olympic year. If there was an event for laziness, I'd probably come in fourth just so I didn't have to scale the podium.
Love that.
Yeah,
very good.
Exactly.
Very good.
So it's kind of, I'm like, oh no.
But if it was your job, John, and you were paid by the studio to go and do that for this one scene, because again, he doesn't have to do it like 20 times in the movie.
That is true. And you have bespoke trainers and motivators.
And you have to eat 20 chickens a day? You do that.
Well, yeah,
but no, he did look fantastic.
He did.
It was a nice ending. And the movie itself wraps up, instead of having a mid-credit scene, the movie wraps up with loads of outtakes from all of the Fox Universe movies, including some that we didn't see in the movie, but we saw like things like Ben Affleck sitting down with I'm going to say Happy Hogan now because I've just forgotten John Favreau's name. There we go. On the set of Deadpool. Loads of background behind the scenes stuff, but it really did feel like this is what the movie was trying to accomplish. It wasn't really trying to be an MCU movie. It was just trying to say goodbye to the Fox universe of movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those movies that made millions of dollars at the box office before the MCU was around, really. So,
in effect, spurred on the Marvel Studios to come into existence in many respects.
Kind of. I'd almost say that's a backhanded compliment, because it's almost like Kevin Feige's like, I'm done with making crappy versions of my characters. I want to go over to sort of our studio where we can do our thing with our characters.
But I think it's a little bit of column A, column B. Yeah, for sure. Like both that and also that at the time, it was the only Marvel game in town. Absolutely. So they made money.
Yeah. Absolutely, and just for examples of that, go see the terrible Fanforstic movie that we did review here on our podcast as well. Go see Elektra if you do want to suffer through it. Go see that. There's some really, really bad entries into those movies. The consistency is definitely not there like it has been for the MCU. So,
I think they had it was Elektra. I just remember bags of rice strung up.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't subject yourself through that again, just because Jennifer Garner was really good in this movie. Is there anything about this movie that we may have missed and may not have talked about, John? I think there's a few things that we have missed.
I'm sure there is. There's the fight in the car in the Honda.
Yes.
Whatever. I can't remember the
I know you want to say Civic.
It wasn't Civic. But in fairness to Honda, they'll be like, thanks for the free advertising. But that was really, really good, actually.
It was a great fight. It seemed to go on for hours and hours. It even comes back the following morning after they've been fighting for hours inside this car, doesn't it? You have to kind of wrapped up in seatbelts. You have Wade wrapped up in seatbelts by Wolverine. That's the only way you can stop the fight in the end. But yeah, I thought that was fantastic to do this close quarters battle between the two of them after... what caused it again? Wolvie said... Oh yeah, Wolverine said to Wade that he can't even have a relationship with a stripper, and that threw Wade Wilson off the edge, basically. So that's why they fought.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a really good fight. There's tons of cameos, tons of the things that we will never get to, no matter how long we watched it. We've only seen it in the cinema once on a massive IMAX 3D screen. Really good screening, actually. Really enjoyed it.
It was superb.
But I'm sure, just like with other movies like this, like Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange The Multiverse of Madness, when you get it home and get to watch it at home and get to pick up all the other Easter eggs that are in there, I'm sure there's tons more that we would see. But overall, John, what did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine? Do you defend Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, I absolutely defend Deadpool and Wolverine. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I would give this 4.5 French kissing pooches out of 5. To me, I feel a lot of the Deadpool movies always kind of really are in your face. They kind of insist on themselves, putting them front and center. And this is in some ways no different. But I love the sense of humor that pervades these movies. And this movie, I worried that it wasn't going to have that. It was going to kind of fall short, drop that ball. And to me, it carried it on. I think the humor was great. I enjoyed immensely Hugh Jackman being in this as Wolverine, which added a significant amount here. Just because you know that character for so long, one of the successful, thankfully from the X-Men characters, I mean, if it'd been miscast, Wolverine, it'd been a nightmare when you think of Fanforstic. Really,
and that was a great cast with a terrible movie.
Really well cast within Hugh Jackman, beloved, and I think that comes through. I think the fact that it interfaces with Logan, and you have X-23 in there, which I just thought they were some of the best sort of serious, semi-serious moments of this movie around. In fact, to some degree, I was drawn to that more than Wade Wilson wanting to get back to Vanessa. In fact, to me, that moment of X-23 and Wolverine round the campfire, where he's wondering what it's really, is it worth it? What's it all about? And, she makes the point, well, you saved me. I'm here to give you that pep talk. But it's just done in a really good way. And that to me was the heart of this movie. The meta stuff around the destruction of the Fox universe into the void, and effectively those bits not being pruned by the TVA being allowed to survive. Fair dues. It's a nice little meta look. As I say, all the Deadpools coming out really good. I love all the cameos. Elektra, grim film. Gambit never had a film. Blade, first film, absolutely phenomenal. Gets more ropey as you move through them. But a lot of good stuff from the Fox. Either a movie which deteriorates very rapidly with the sequel and the threequel, or good director's cuts of them like Daredevil as well,
or just reboot the universe again like the First Class and those X-Men movies.
Exactly.
Just if you can't work at the story, just reboot it again. Nobody cares.
The Thomas Jane Punisher again, it's classic to his origin story, and it's a decent movie.
He's a cameo I'd really like to see here. And actually, there was something in the news this week that John Bernthal said he's been training with Thomas Jane to get back in shape for Punisher in Daredevil, which is interesting. Just with all this multiverse stuff going on, you never know. Thomas Jane may appear in the Daredevil Born Again TV series. It could happen. He's a great actor. Love him.
I liked all these cameos for sure. I would love to see Cassandra Nova again.
Yes.
I thought Emma Corrin, superb.
They were great, yeah.
As we said, we've known her from Pennyworth. And to be honest, if I'm totally honest, I wouldn't have put that kind of performance in her wheelhouse, to be honest. And in fact, her moving to The Crown and playing Princess Diana, I could see that. This, to me, is a really great performance. I feel as though it's actually going against what she would feel comfortable doing. So fair dues to her, and it really paid off. It was a great villainous performance.
Great.
Love to see her Cassandra Nova again. So all of it put together, I really enjoyed. 4.5 French kissing pooches out of 5 for me.
Excellent stuff.
Or 4.5 doggy breaths out of 5.
Very good, John. Very good.
Derek, what about yourself? Do you defend Deadpool and Wolverine?
I defend it. I'm not as high up on these movies as you know, John. The comedy movies in Marvel. And I tend to find the Deadpool movies are very light in terms of story. I found it really difficult writing the notes for this, for example, because I was kind of going cameo, fight, cameo. What happened at the end again? That's the way I experienced a Deadpool movie. But this was a lot of fun. I came out laughing. We came out talking and smiling, which is a great accomplishment in any movie for me. So you come out. A lot of joy, a lot of fun. It was completely different to what I thought the movie was going to be. I thought this absolutely was going to be an MCU Deadpool movie. It's not. It's saying goodbye to the Fox universe. So lots of the cameos that are in here were real surprises because I expected things like, maybe they will get Robert Downey Jr. back for 2 minutes on screen, or Chris Evans back as Captain America, just to welcome Deadpool into the MCU. But I don't think they've even done that. They've got Happy Hogan as the person from the MCU. They've got Wunmi Mosaku from Loki. Are they the only 2 Marvel Universe characters that are actually in the movie?
Pretty much.
They reference the TVA, but there's no background characters in the TVA in there other than Wunmi Mosaku, which is interesting in itself. Like, they only have Hunter B-15. So there are so many characters. You would think they would have poked fun at something like the Eternals, or they would have poked fun at maybe how the Marvels did and bring in some of those actors to do cameos in this movie if it was a real MCU movie. So I guess, is that the next thing? Is that what they're going to do with the sequel to this movie that's already made almost $500 million in a weekend? Will they have a real Deadpool in the MCU movie next?
Well, that's true. It's interesting you say that because, you have the reference to some degree around Captain America, obviously, but it is the Human Torch.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, it's like kind of, you're all going, well, it's maybe Captain America, really.
It's not.
I know it's not, but you know what I mean. But like, the only other real mention is around Doctor Strange with the sling ring and about the magician effectively that being brought into the void.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting to have that reference.
Yeah.
Because I could see, Doctor Strange is quite a straight character, but always plays well, like with Spider-Man. I can see him playing well with Deadpool.
That'd be really interesting to see,
would.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of thinking around, the little post-credit scene with Thor. That had a nice little sense of comedic levity to it, which I think Benedict Cumberbatch is more than able for. So
They could do it. Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
So there you go. That's our theory, thoughts, and speculations on what's coming next from Deadpool. John, will we pop over and get some feedback from our wonderful fellow defenders?
I think we should. Yes, thanks so much, fellow defenders, for sending in your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine.
Better than Chris. They went out and saw the movie.
Absolutely. Guys, such
Sorry,
a part-timer. First off, we have an email from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow TV agent defenders." Oh, I like what you did there. That was a lot of fun. It'll be a bit before I know if I liked it or not. I mean, I'm sure it's good, funny, action-packed and all that, but rarely has anything shook me by the shoulders and shouted into my face, "You love this, right?" The way this did. The idea that a timeline is dependent on a certain individual's existence is either a Mr. Paradox lie or particularly bad bit of contrivance on the writer's part. And how does it bring Deadpool to our timeline if he saved his own? On the plus side, loved Cassandra, Johnny Storm, Gambit, and the 100 other cameos we got in this. Strange that there were no Lokis to be seen. They also all but confirmed that there will be no new Blade movie. Would have to say my favourite bit was Deadpool digging up Logan. What was yours? No rating until I've given this another viewing or two. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka. Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. I totally get where you're coming from, that, you know, you kind of just need to let it sink in, because it is kind of like a water pistol being fired into your face, and you just need that time to recover from all the water dripping down your face and going up your nose and into your mouth. You need that kind of to sort of breathe, relax. Okay. What happened there? I mean, it's like with the dog. It's like with Dogpool. What is going on here? What is that about? Is it real? Is it CGI? Is it just purely messed up? Does PETA know about this? Like, whatever. It's like lots of stuff going on. So I totally understand that. For me, I'm absolutely in the same way. Loved Deadpool digging up Logan at the start. Lots of I thought the fight sequence of it was actually excellent. I think for me, I really did, on a serious note, I loved X-23 and Wolverine together, because it just took me back to Logan, and we kind of rewatched that movie as well, and it's still, for me, my favourite Logan movie. Absolutely adore it, and love the cameos as well. To be honest, I think it is just so messed up. It probably is Dogpool and all the Deadpools. And I do like, you know, in fairness, I like their loyalty and referencing of Wrexham with Welshpool and Paul Mullins. You know, that's something that I think is just so cool of them to do that. And for Ryan Reynolds to do that, and to have, you know, his partner in crime at Wrexham, Rob McElhenney, being involved as well as Paul Mullins. So fair dues.
And you couldn't really tell that it was them until you saw the credits, but still, it was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good little touch. And you made a really good reference there, Coffee and Vodka, about the fact that Blades calls out, "I'm the only Blade," in here, because he had 3 movies, and the Mahershala Ali movie seems to be taking a very, very long time to come to screen. Multiple writers have left the project, multiple directors have left the project. They're still saying it's coming. And in fact, I think Kevin Feige at the San Diego Comic-Con said this is going to be the next R-rated movie from the MCU is Blade. So that's how it's being described on their schedule. So I'm not sure. I think at the time they wrote this, there was definitely loads of questions over it. Those questions are still present right now, but I wouldn't put it past them to eventually get the Blade movie made.
Yes. I mean, it's a real interesting thing to happen in the middle of the movie. I mean, actually, all that fourth wall stuff is really good. You know, it's kind of just so self-aware in many respects. This movie and the way it's written. So it's really good. So, thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. We have a voicemail in from the wonderful Mr. Steve Brown. Welcome back, Steve.
Absolutely.
Hello, TV podcast industries. This is Steve. It's been a while, but I'm glad to send you in a couple quick notes about Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm assuming you're going to cover it at some point. I just got home from watching it, and man, I'm ready to go see it again. I really enjoyed the ride. It was fun. The thing that jumped out at me the most, I think, or one of the things that jumped out at me the most was there was a lot of insider kind of things that if you didn't know what was going on or you didn't know the backstory, you wouldn't get, but it wouldn't take away from the story, such as early on in the movie when one of the characters starts to says something and Deadpool stops him and goes, "No, you can't improv," knowing that this was filmed during the writer's strike and so they couldn't do any kind of improv or anything like that. Was funny to hear that line. Also, towards the end there, one of the shops that Deadpool and Wolverine are thrown into a couple of times by Cassandra and they fight past with the other Deadpools is is Liefeld's Just Feet. And if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Rob Liefeld was one of those illustrators of Marvel many, many years ago, and it was joked about that he couldn't draw feet. So seeing a sign that was like Liefeld's Just Feet was pretty funny to see, and then I caught it. Okay, I had to pause the recording and re-record a couple of things, so hopefully it sounds right. But at the end there, when I was reading the credits, it looked like Paul Mullen played Welsh Deadpool, the Deadpool that they showed a couple of times with the Wales flag on his uniform. I certainly hope that's the Paul Mullen from the Wrexham Football Club that Ryan and Rob Delaney own. Also, I can't wait to watch it again because I missed the Rob Delaney cameo. I know he's in there somewhere, but apparently I just wasn't watching quick enough to see it. So anyway, just my quick thoughts. Love the movie. Can't wait to go watch it again. Can't wait to hear you guys cover it. Talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Steve. And
thanks, Steve.
Great to get your thoughts. It definitely was Super Paul Mullins who played Welsh Pool. Interestingly, that is also the name of a town in Wales, is Welsh Pool.
Is it?
Yes.
Very good. Like Liverpool.
Like Liverpool, yeah, that kind of thing. It's south of Wrexham as well. It's not that far. But so that's assuming that you call that character Welsh Pool or not Welsh Deadpool.
Yes, gotcha.
But I like the idea that you call it Welsh Pool, and that is also
a bit after the name of
a town.
Very good, very good. You mentioned there, Steve, about the fact that this was done during the writer's strike and they couldn't improv at all. It's a really, really good point because I'm sure the first two movies had a lot of improv. But I know there were challenges for them making the movie because they couldn't do any improv in here. It had to be all written down in a script, approved, sent to the actors to perform effectively, very different to the other two movies. So while, of course, Ryan Reynolds and director Sean Levy got a writing credit there, they had to actually write down what they were saying as well. They couldn't just improv on stage. So a nice gag in there. I think you said at the end that you missed Rob Delaney's cameo. You might have been meaning to say Rob McElhenney's cameo that's in the movie. And yeah, I think he's the one behind the glasses we mentioned where we think he is in the movie. Although in the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, when they talk about the cameo, at the end a little sign comes up on screen and says, Rob doesn't know we've cut him from the film. So we don't know. He does get a credit at the end. Rob McElhenney does get a credit at the end of the movie. So as a TVA agent. So whether that's him or not, or whether he actually did end off on the cutting room floor, we might not know, but I think he is there. I think that's part of the joke.
Excellent. Great stuff. Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. Over on our Facebook group, we have some feedback in from Ray from Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. He says, I came out of the theatre just wanting more. The film isn't touted as a feel-good movie, but that's exactly what it did. It made me feel good. All the bluster on the internet over rumours of who was in it and why Wolverine doesn't have his iconic mask. I'm glad that all blew over me as I was able to enjoy the surprise cameos, and by the time Wolvie donned the mask, I had totally forgotten all the annoying comments from fans online on how they won't watch it because he doesn't have his mask. My eyes widened and I reckon my mouth went agape when Wolvie pulled it up over his head. Utter bliss.
Absolutely.
The comic book references were also so well appreciated, even the tongue-in-cheek dig at 5'3" Wolvie, and I appreciated that. Seeing Patch, Age of Apocalypse Wolvie, and the iconic 251 cover of Uncanny X-Men when Wolvie was crucified by the Reavers in Australia, the level of dedication and thought from the writers, just brilliant. The meta-meaning of the Void, i.e. discarded properties used by Fox, As well as some meta chat, towards the end, Deadpool asks Wolvie if he'll see him again. Wolvie/Hugh pauses, then says, nah, I hope not. Made this a highly enjoyable and truly thematic Deadpool film. Ryan Reynolds has hit it out of the park. I won't even mention the cameos. I'm sure they'll be amply covered by other comments here, but everything worked wonderfully. My only small blemish, if at all, was that Emma Corrin felt completely overshadowed by the occasion of the film. By that I mean she did a brilliant job, but felt Cassandra Nova took a back seat to the bromance that was Wolvie and the closing legacy of the Fox films. The stakes were high towards the end, and she was scary powerful, but my attention remained with the self-referential meta banter and the allure of who else we'd see pop up. It's a film that has made me really appreciate Deadpool in film even more, and despite what was said, I really, 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 really hope we get more Deadpool and Wolverine in the future. The best fun I've had in the cinema in a long time. Ray.
Excellent stuff. Thanks so much, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
For sending your thoughts. Absolutely, just like yourself, completely loved this movie. So funny, laugh out loud. All the different references, whether it's meta between Fox and I guess ultimately the MCU, but all the comic book references that you mentioned, just really, really good.
Yeah, you caught a few there that we didn't mention. I know seeing Patch, which is Wolverine with the eye patch and the white James Bond type jacket in there. That was really cool. I remember a rumor going around that was going to be the introduction of Daniel Radcliffe playing Wolverine, who's been rumored to take over the role as Wolverine. Like every actor in their 20s and 30s has been rumored to take over Wolverine when it's eventually hung up by Hugh Jackman. But that was the rumor. He was going to turn around and you'd see the face of Daniel Radcliffe in there.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I feel as though Daniel Radcliffe has got the same kind of hair type and head.
Maybe.
He could certainly do the 5'3" Wolvie.
He could. Yes. He's
whether he can sort of, bulk/Hulk it out. I think that would be interesting.
I could see him doing it.
He would have to eat 40 chickens a day.
Nobody should eat 40 chickens a day. Kevin Hinson also gave some feedback. He simply says, Superman as Wolverine.
Oh, absolutely.
Henry Cavill.
Enjoy that.
That's great.
Love Henry Cavill, the old Cavillmeister. Great stuff. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Ray, again. Greg Schwab says, as an eternal 13-year-old boy, these films are a return to the wheelhouse of my adolescence, with raunchy comedy, a whole lot of swear words and dick jokes, and fanboying around every bit of pop culture references, cameos, and comic material brought to the big screen. And nothing gave me the giggles more than the foul-mouthed torch in caps body post-credit scene. This was amazing. I can't even begin to list my favourite cameos because it will have taken you 20 minutes of the podcast to address them all. So I'll just say that even though I loved it, the bouncing of tone going from silly, gratuitous violence and swear words, which I loved, to Wade's dramatic flashback mental health recovery was a bit jarring and didn't feel like it matched the rest of the film. I felt like I was intently listening for the next dick joke and then it never came. Just felt weird. Besides that, I loved the fan service bringing back forgotten, intentional or otherwise characters and actors and practically everything else about the movie. Some of my high points, Channing Tatum as Gambit, felt very off at first, but after a few minutes I enjoyed the real representation of the character we've gotten. Chris Evans was great all round, and the music budget, while it must have been astronomical, fit so much with the movie, it made it even better. I'll end with my observation that they had several actors playing several characters that are all supposed to be in the same multiverse, made this even funnier. Ryan Reynolds with Blade in Trinity, where he played a mouthy mercenary, if I remember. Chris Evans as discussed, and the re-team up as expected of Reynolds and Jackman, even if different versions of the characters as we met them in the Origins. It made the confusion of the characters on screen even funnier. Lastly, Cassandra's impression of Scarlet Witch in Multiverse of Madness, fingers in the head, gave me the bloody creeps.
That's an interesting point, actually, Greg. The waving of Wanda's fingers as she does her magic. That's similar to what Cassandra's doing, except Cassandra's putting her hands inside people's faces and waving the fingers. But very creepy, yeah.
It was very creepy, but it was so well done.
Mm-hmm, it was.
I must say, I still love that whole sequence with her and Mr. Paradox.
Absolutely.
It's just really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. A really nice note that you've got there as well about some actors playing several characters that were supposed to be in the same multiverse before. It's not that I'd forgotten that Reynolds and Jackman had played Wolverine and Deadpool back in Wolverine Origins. I tend to forget that a little bit, but it is interesting that they're very confused at seeing each other to begin with, you know, as to who they could possibly be. So yeah, it's really, really good that they were there. I know in the Deadpool universe, doesn't Deadpool go and kill Ryan Reynolds before he takes... No, he kills Ryan Reynolds before he takes the role of Green Lantern and then goes and kills himself, playing the part of Deadpool at that time in that version, basically. So
yeah. Absolutely. Great stuff, Greg. I'm so glad you enjoyed it in terms of the fan service. Great to get your thoughts. Some lovely bits of feedback there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Greg. We also had some feedback in from Russell Hooper, who says that awful Wolverine mask made me spit out my drink when I first saw it, and Dogpool is going to give me nightmares. The opening fight using Logan's bones was brilliant. When the cameos in the void were cropping up, I didn't catch that they were all Fox movie characters. I'm forgetting her name. When the girl from Logan showed up and Elektra, Blade and Gambit, he was awesome, were being verbally trashed by Deadpool. They were mentioning how they were forgotten, thrown away, disliked, or never made franchises. I expected the girl to be Daisy Ridley playing Rey. Absolutely no connection to Marvel, but I could see Deadpool just giving her crap about how some fans hate Rey, not Daisy. Let's get that clear. And the sequels, that would have been a boss move by Disney. For the record, Wade faked the video of Johnny Storm in the post-credits scene. Ooh, I don't know about that, Russell. And finally, he says, one final bit of trivia. I live in Tennessee. The main supplier of power to most of the state is the Tennessee Valley Authority, or the TVA. Is there something we don't know? There's a whole city between Nashville and Knoxville that is known as the Secret City. Without going into details, the Manhattan Project was done there. Makes you wonder.
Excellent bit of trivia there, Russell.
The real
love
TVA
that.
is the Tennessee Valley Authority.
I love that. I would watch out. It depends on how high the bills start getting, because of the amount of power they need to sort of pull
to run the universe scraper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really interesting around the TVA and the Secret City in, well, I guess in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dogpool is also, or did give me nightmares.
You loved him, really.
No, I did, but it was way over the top snogging between an animal and a human.
I just was hearing that
I know,
noise
exactly.
for hours afterwards. Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed that opening fight as well. It would have been interesting if they'd pulled other properties in from the Disney Plus. That would have been quite an interesting sort of way to go.
Yeah.
I think. I feel as though Star Wars, it may have almost be seen as sacrilegious, but you never know. It would have been interesting.
It would have, but again, it's kind of the different experience coming out of the cinema that I had going into it. I was going into it thinking, oh, they're really going to start having a go at the MCU because they can. They're here now. They're going to make fun of all the MCU movies. And then they didn't at all. They poked some fun at Kevin Feige in jokes that we'd actually seen in the trailers, but not really. They don't really stray beyond the walls of the Fox universe, which is ending, basically. So they have their bit of fun and then end in that lovely montage of behind-the-scenes things, kind of saying, you did a good job. Your universe is over now. Then we'll move on to the MCU next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much, Russell. Richard Blaze says, a really strong way to end the trilogy, and for me, better than the second. The Chris Evans cameo got me. I was so excited to think he was back as Cap. I was totally blindsided when he shouted, "Flame on." Loved Deadpool searching for the Wolverines. So much great acknowledgement to the past comics and characters. The TVA was done well and felt like an extension from the Loki series. Really want Loki to appear at some point. Oh, and Henry Cavill. The fundamentals of Deadpool movie is violence, swearing, and long drawn out over the top insults, and this film had it all aplenty, and I loved it. I need to watch it several more times though to get the full list of Easter eggs. Totally agree. Richard. Yeah, just to, flag that we're doing the podcast on the basis of a single watch through. So, if we've missed anything, apologies, but there is so much in this movie. Hence why this feedback section is so good for any of those little bits that maybe we've just not picked up on.
Exactly. We're just running out of time at the moment. That's why we couldn't wait for Chris to go to the cinema. We don't have another week.
Exactly. But there are so many Easter eggs, so many cameos. It's all really, really good. And like yourself, I think this is better than the second. I kind of get you on that. And it's not just because that it is a Deadpool movie with its violence, swearing, and long drawn out insults, as you say. But I think the fact, you are bringing Wolverine in and you have to acknowledge that. Yes, it is a Deadpool movie. Yes, you have that moment of fun and reverence towards Wolverine. And I think that's what they did. They had their fun with Wolverine, but they had their reverence to the comics, to at least the last movie that he starred in, which was Logan. And that's what I really thought, was top notch here, for sure. So great stuff. Thanks, Richard.
Absolutely. Thanks, Richard. Felipe Gergel Florencio says, I really enjoyed the movie. So funny and sarcastic, just like its main character. Loved the cameos and the jokes Deadpool makes about them. Still think that Elektra is a bad movie, though. Nostalgia is not that strong to make me change my mind about it. I was expecting more X-Men content and cameos, but I enjoyed that this movie was a farewell to all the Fox movies and not an introduction to mutants in the MCU. One last thing. Quick question about the Wesley Snipes being the only Blade joke. Do you think it's an irony suggesting that the Mahershala Ali movie will never come out? It's always changing writers or directors, or an irony that the character who doesn't know a new Blade is being made? That's an interesting question, Felipe. I think it can work on both levels. If the movie comes out in the future, then they can say it was just about just a joke about Wesley Snipes believing he's the only Blade that could ever be and ever will be. I actually think, now that I say it out loud, I think he actually said that. At one point, I think Wesley Snipes said, why didn't they just ask me to come back and be Blade? I would have done it. Why are they hiring somebody else new, basically? I'm the only Blade that ever will be. Similar to David Hasselhoff saying he's the only Nick Fury there ever would be as well. But that tends to happen with possessiveness of some actors to their roles in the past. So it might have just been that. But yes, there is a troubled production on Blade that we all know about as people that follow what's going on. Hopefully it does get made, because I just want to see Mahershala Ali back in the Marvel universe.
I'd love to see Mahershala Ali as well back in Marvel. Loved him as Cottonmouth King in Luke Cage, and fantastic. It would be so good to have him sort of pop up in the MCU. I think also as well, just because it feels to me as though it would link into, the post-credit scene of the Eternals as well. I think because, we know that the Eternals will be referenced in the upcoming Captain America movie. It'd be great to have that kind of whole thing with the Black Knight, Blade, and so on, that kind of little corner of the MCU sort of getting a bit of development. So who knows? But yeah, for sure, I think it will work potentially both ways, if they need it to. So yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Felipe.
Absolutely. Thanks, Felipe.
I'm also there with you. Elektra does not age well and will never age well, even with nostalgia.
I don't think it aged well from the edit until it was put in the cinema. Like, nobody liked it when it came out in the cinema. I felt really sorry for them when they did that. It was the same thing as Catwoman, the Halle Berry movie. Halle Berry, great actress, had just won an Oscar for Monsters Ball, then went off and did Catwoman, and that kind of ended the career. She ended up going back into the X-Men universe to play Storm because, everybody was looking at her going, is that your movie choice after you win an Oscar?
It's so weird, wasn't it?
But anyway, that's the DC bad movies.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Felipe. Finally, from Facebook, we have John Daniel, who says, I adored the fourth wall abuse and fan service. I thought it was hilarious and had heart. Wolverine's mask was effing epic, and the fight scene in the Honda was flawless. Loved it. Totally agree. The fight scene in the Honda was just superb. I really liked Wolverine's mask, okay? But I do feel there was a weird thing going on with the eyes.
Do you know what it was?
Go on.
I found out afterwards. He has the same eyes as Deadpool
yeah,
does.
exactly.
It's white eyeballs, and it feels weird on Wolvie's mask.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I like the mask, though.
No, I did. Yeah. I liked the mask, but I kept getting drawn to the eyes.
Right.
And I realised it was because they were the same sort of cloudy white eyes as Deadpool. But it also, it was the shadow. It looked like he had sort of eyeliner at the bottom, or it was slightly open.
Like the Batman.
It was just, there was something about it that took me out of the epicness of the actual mask itself. Because it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not before we go down that road.
I think Ray mentioned earlier on, there were loads of complaints ahead of time that he was going to be wearing the mask or he wasn't going to be wearing the mask. And then when they did see it, then they said they didn't want it. They wanted a better one. They wanted a different one. Loads of people have commented on it. We didn't. I really enjoyed the scene where he pulled it up because it came out of nowhere after an hour and a half of the movie. He's effectively had this mask behind his head that he wasn't going to pull it on until that big battle moment, and I think it worked really well in there. But yeah, it's the eyes. That's definitely the thing that kind of throws you off on it because it looks very different from what you'd expect from.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just looked maybe heavily CGI enhanced because of those eyes. Probably in relation to sort of old Hughes' jawline.
Yep,
but I still loved it.
Yep. Yeah, excellent stuff. Thank you all so much for your awesome feedback. You pulled it out of the bag there, Defenders. I'm glad you all, mostly at least, enjoyed it at the cinema as well. Fun summer experience. It's a weird year. We're not getting as much Marvel content as we normally do. Like we're months past the last thing we covered on Marvel, and still got a few months to go until we cover Agatha All Along. And then the next Marvel movie that's coming up is Captain America. Which I am really excited for, especially after the panel that was at San Diego Comic-Con this week that we were watching. Yeah. Really excited to see what they're going to do in the universe with the new Captain America movie. So that'll be exciting. And Thunderbolts is coming next year as well with the misfit characters of Marvel. Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to Thunderbolts now. I mean, Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Got Bucky coming back.
Bucky, absolutely. Sebastian Stan, I've got a soft spot for him.
Me too.
For sure. So
might have been a hard spot for him.
So I'm really looking forward to the Thunderbolts. We also had Fantastic Four.
Yes, you did. The big characters reveal.
Sort of the Jetsons there. Yeah, I mean, for me, Fantastic Four, Schmashtic Schmore. For me, it's always Doctor Doom with the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And he always kind of saves them, the movie. It'll be interesting to see how this goes.
They've done what? Is it 4 Fantastic Four movies? There was the movies that had Chris Evans in them, the first 2, I suppose, that were released. There was the Roger Corman one that's only available on YouTube, and then Fanforstic. So they've tried it 4 times and it's failed all those times, but they've never tried it in the MCU. And here in the MCU version, we've got Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. We've got the kid from Stranger Things, who's playing Johnny Storm. We've got Evan Moss-Bacharach, who was in The Punisher, playing Micro, and also excellent in The Bear as well. And they've got Vanessa Kirby from Mission Impossible coming in as Sue Storm. What a great central cast. And then the massive reveal at the weekend that Doctor Doom is going to be played by Robert Downey Jr.
Absolutely,
playing Victor Von Doom as well.
The cast looks great. It's obviously not in Marvel 616. It's a different time.
That's the suspicion.
Oh, that's the suspicion.
Yeah, Matt Shackman said that he put together a little teaser clip of what could be around when they get to Fantastic Four. They're starting filming this week, so nothing's actually been filmed for the movie itself, but he's could have put together kind of a mood board with a lot of special effects apparently of what it could look like, and it looks like, as you said, John, a kind of an alternate version of the 60s.
It's almost like the initial couple of episodes from WandaVision. That kind of era, but more advanced in terms of what they can do. So hovering cars like the Jetsons. So it's almost like Fallout in a sense.
Right.
And, it's retro science fiction, and that will be kind of interesting because that is definitely a nice way of taking it. I think. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Dr. Doom coming back.
Perfect.
That's cool. Again, haven't been able to successfully create Doctor Doom on screen in the past, so hopefully Robert Downey Jr. in the role will be an interesting one. That has divided fandom all over the place. Do you want Robert Downey Jr. back as a brand new character? Will there be an explanation why he'll look like Tony Stark? And lots of people still know Tony Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so there will be something there. I'm sure they have a plan.
This is the notion that it's a different universe.
Yeah, but if he walks into our MCU, into 616 and all the other characters see him, will they recognize him as Tony Stark, So it's a very interesting idea. I've always said Tony Stark was a villain right back from Civil War when he was up against Steve, so I'm with it. But the other big announcement that came finally confirmed, the Russo brothers are returning to the MCU to direct the Avengers 5 and 6, Avengers Doomsday, it's now called, no longer the Kang Dynasty, for reasons. It's now going to be called Doomsday, so probably starring Robert Downey Jr. and Avengers Secret War.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently it was in the provision for Robert Downey Jr. that he would only return to the MCU if the Russo brothers came back to direct the movies. So that's why they're all back. That's why they were all on stage at San Diego Comic-Con. And that's why their wallets no longer close and will never close again for the next couple of 100 years.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah. So we've not only covered Deadpool and Wolverine and talked about your awesome feedback, we've also covered all the San Diego Comic-Con news from Marvel. So I think that's it. That's all we've got. And that's us taking a little break for a while.
Yes, it is. Just a quick reminder, fellow defenders, that you can support us for a monthly amount over at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, or for a one-off donation over at buymeacoffee.com/TVPI. to help us along with the running of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely want to say a quick thank you to Alan Thomas, who supported us over on Buy Me a Coffee.
Yes, thank you so much, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
But of course, you can support us by sending in your feedback, because that is such a great way of supporting us and contributing to this wonderful podcast as well. And of course, you can support us for free by subscribing to the podcast and sharing it with your friends. Because remember, fellow defenders, sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Yes, it is.
Yes, the doggy love, dare we say it, with Deadpool. Yeah, but we will be back later in August as we cover the final season of the Umbrella Academy. So looking forward to that. And of course, we have the second season of The Rings of Power coming through on Prime Video.
Yep. And we'll be back in the Marvel Universe for Agatha All Along in September. Now, we are going to be taking a little bit of a break. We have to mention that we're not going to be back with Umbrella Academy as it comes out, because it comes out in, I think, next week, the 9th of August. We're not going to be around to cover it then.
No, we aren't.
Yes, we will be back with Umbrella Academy when we get the chance later on in August. So if you have any feedback on that, we want to hear from you. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com and tell us your thoughts about Umbrella Academy. We should be back in time for the weekly release of The Rings of Power, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow defenders, and of course, moviegoers, for joining us for Deadpool and Wolverine. Until the next movie, of course, keep watching, keep listening, and let's go.
Bye.
Bye.